Welcome to the Spirit-Centered Business Podcast, where we blend the spiritual with the practical for supernatural results. Now, here is your host, Bralynn Newby.
Hey there, welcome to Spirit-Centered Business. Look who I have in the house. It's the Next Agers. I don't think you guys have ever been on Spirit-Centered Business before. This is awesome. We've seen them on Kingdom Talks, and we've had them on various other shows and interactions, but I don't think they've ever been on Spirit-Centered Business. So welcome, you guys. This is amazing. I just have one little note of announcement before we jump into whatever the heck we're talking about, which we haven't decided. But anyway, the announcement is that on spiritcenteredbusiness.com, the vault is now open. And that means that the recordings that I had in the academy, the teachings, which some of them are from the Next Agers. We've got Martin Smith in there. We've got Michael Basham in there. We also have Dan Duvall and Ruthie Andrews and Lindy Strong and a bunch of other people that you know. All of those guys' recordings and those teachings can be found on spiritcenteredbusiness.com if you just click the vault button. And then there's also now a store on Spirit Centered Business where you find some activations and some other teachings. Okay, that's my announcements. So welcome, you guys. This is so cool.
It's been too long.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for having us on.
I know. Well, it's just such a blessing and a pleasure that you're here. And we're going to just do a part one and a part two. Part one is going to be aired on the 23rd. So Merry Christmas to the audience. And I don't know if that leads our conversation or not, although we did do a Christmas one on Kingdom Talks one time. And then the second part two, will be right before New Year's. So, so you guys, I think we just want to catch up. And Michael is actually on here. You'll see him pop on and off, audience. We can see him in the grid of the Zoom. There he is. Awesome. He's our ghost from the Smoky Mountains at the moment, which I'm so cool. Tell us the story of how you even got to the Smoky Mountains.
Well, it's been Miracle Warfare City the last month since coming here from California. A best friend moved here 5 years ago, and then my brother moved here, my sister moved here, and then my dad and mom just bought a house here. So we're basically renting from them and doing odd jobs and building an office downtown. So we're gonna probably be here for a while, and just lots to report, but I don't want to hog the mic. So thank you so much for having me. And thanks for saying Merry Christmas and not Happy Holidays.
Oh, no, it's Christmas is this specific holiday that we're celebrating. So you can lump them all together if you want, but that's a really long word.
I started saying Happy Holidays and I caught myself. I'm like, what did I just say? No.
Right? Exactly. Well, which holiday do you mean exactly? And who cares if it's not actually his birthday? I don't care. We're taking it back. I don't care. It's pretty and I want it. So there. Michael, the Smoky Mountains are awesome. And God is moving in this area. There's a lot of stirring going on over here. I'm just east of the Smoky Mountains now, but my parents were married right there in Marion and lived in Asheville and Linville Falls. And I'm going to be over there in January. So.
Well, you guys are welcome we can do an in-studio, like a Joe Rogan style meeting gathering.
That would be cool.
We'll want to invite you over, and maybe like a hip hop concert, all kinds of stuff. We can do it.
Let's do it.
Blow this town up.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a lot closer than Hawaii, so we can make it happen, right?
Yeah,
no, totally.
Joe Rogan style opens up lots of possibilities. There's lots of things.
Which aspect of Joe Rogan?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you talking about?
Just having a
light one
up. Yeah. Oh no.
Joe Rogan style.
Correct.
Michael's taking the Smoky Mountains a little too serious.
We're talking about moonshine.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was looking for I love sprint cars. I love racing and monster trucks and that kind of stuff, but there are not any sprint car racing in the area. However, I was told that NASCAR actually started here because of the bootleggers learning to soup up their cars and drive really fast.
I mean, that's history from Talladega Nights. I mean, come on.
Oh, it is? I didn't see that. Oh my gosh. Well, Michael, I hope you get better internet though, so you can continue your show. And for anybody who doesn't know, are you still you're doing your podcast, Spirit Wars, right?
Yes. Because I've only been able to do shows from my car, I'm keeping it to little, 45-minute rants. And then I've been working on the Fringe Radio Network and putting your shows on there as well, catching up with Derek shows, with Kingdom Talk, as well as a bunch of others. And that's all going to shift over to the studio basically being like the base for the satellite of just keeping the connections together, the networks of warriors and conspiracy talk. And it's all happening right now. And we're already having infiltrations of like supernatural demonic things that don't like us there. And it's a story to be told. I'll tell you, it feels like you said, there's something here in this area that God is moving, and a lot of the spiritual seekers, a lot of the New Agers and stuff, they're going to love us. They're going to love this material. So resistance.
And thank you again to you and Johnny for allowing Spirit Centered Business on your Fringe Radio Network. I so appreciate that. Did you guys see I passed 10,000 downloads on Spreaker? So
Congratulations.
Awesome.
I'm nowhere near Derek or others, but that's my first 10,000.
Celebrate the victories, man.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There will be many millions more to come.
Thank you. So Derek, I haven't seen you in forever. What's up with you these days?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm preparing for 2022. I just got some really good news the other day. I'm going to be on Coast to Coast AM this Friday.
Awesome.
And so God opened up a door for me to go there and to share my story and my message. So I've been trying to get on that for ever since I heard the program. Probably became a fan in like 2009 and was like, I'd love to go on this show, but I feel like it's been something that God's been preparing me for when I was ready. And I've told my story 1,000 times, and I've got parts I can leave out, parts I can add in. And when can I change my inflection when the demon came into the room, and just kind of preparing me to go on such a platform to share and convey the message that we have. And so super excited for that and God making it happen. I've been chasing my tail with that as far as who can get you in. And hey, if you send me $1,500, I can get you in. No, it's $2,000. We can do it. If you 4 installments of $4,000 a month, different publicists coming into your life, like promising you or saying that we can pitch you to Coast AM. And then when it comes down to it, we can't really promise you anything though. It's like, oh God, I got to give you, 8 installments of 4,000 and you can't promise an interview on there. And ended up everything coming to a head where I didn't have to pay anything. It's like when it's the Lord, like we try to open up doors before it's time. But when it's God's perfect time, we can build the house. But if the laborers build it, they labor in vain. But we can plant the seeds, we can water it, but it's God that gives the increase. So I'm just so happy that he's the one that opens the doors, and I didn't have to pay anything. I didn't have to force my way into anything. In its perfect timing, like he'll put you in front of the people that you need to be in front of. And so just trusting that process, even with something like that, as far as going on a huge platform to share, it's awesome. God does everything for a reason and perfect timing and season.
That is so cool. I haven't even thought about Coast to Coast. One of my early clients, who's probably like 2012, 2013, was on there. But other than that, I haven't thought about it. What are they known for other than, I guess at the time, well, let me see. He was doing hypnosis or something. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I would say, and Bastion probably knows this too, but like spiritual, paranormal, and
Oh,
everything fringe, I would say.
UFOs.
Everything
say
fringe.
we've
but not
had
necessarily
probably-
kingdom. Everything.
There's like
Yeah.
100 guests on there that we've had. The network is like basically coast to coast on material. So yeah, great job,
Okay.
Derek. Great news. Great job.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so
Yeah,
awesome.
that is very cool.
I think they have 3 million weekly listeners.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
well
it's a
done.
huge deal.
So what is your call to action when you're on the show?
I need to talk to you. I'm trying to get everything ready right now. Like, because that's the funny thing, because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm getting ready for 2022, right? Of what
In your head. Oh, well.
Well, it starts in the head and then it comes in the
does.
paper, right?
Yep.
So it starts in the head 2022, but it's like, hold on, this is Friday. This Friday. This isn't 2022. Like, we got to be ready for the traffic now. So yeah, I'm getting all of my stuff polished up, and just the classes and the sessions that we do, and discipleship, and my book, and just having all the call to actions there on my website. The goal is to get them to the website and see what we do, and we have a place for them, and growing and encountering God's love and growing in that and introducing them to you guys.
That's awesome.
But I've been looking up some things as far as stepping into 2022 that we might need to talk. So I need some help with some content strategy. I've hired my first personal assistant, and
good.
which has been freaking amazing. Just stepping into that, this huge weight lifted off of me as far as creating digital content to keep the Facebooks and Instagrams engaged and all of that with content that I've already put out. So that was a huge step for me. It's freed up more time that I can create, and I don't have to like admin and create memes and those kind of things. So yeah, it's stuff that you definitely deal with spirit-centered business for sure. Taking those steps.
I'm proud of you. That's really, really awesome.
There's a lot to give up though. There's a lot to work through, because I'm so possessive of the quality and how things have to look. And hey, I wouldn't say that. I need to change the wording up, and even micromanaging everything. Like it's
yep.
It's big,
I know.
yeah.
It's hard. It is hard. And, I have an agency now that to do the doing for my clients. And I have to give up. Like, I would think that I would want it this way, and so when I was doing it, it's going to look this way, but you're exactly right. Especially when you're a creative and you're used to doing it yourself, and you're used to knowing how it's going to work and look. Yep. And yeah, I get it. But it's one of those principles of business that we have to be able to let go so that we can stay in our lane.
Yep.
Stay on our own destiny scroll, right?
Yeah, that's it. I've taught myself how to do everything. So when it comes down to shooting a music video, like I want to hold the camera and be in front of the camera at the same time.
I get
it's one of those things. Like, hold on, you can't do both. You got to trust that person's eye. I'm like directing music videos from behind the camera, and people who are like getting paid to do it. So I'm like, I hope I'm not stepping on their toes, man. But like, I've got a vision, and we got to meet halfway, I guess.
Yeah. Well done, though. That's a really good point for business owners.
Huge.
Excellent. Yeah. So, Martin, haven't seen you in a while, and you've been on the show before.
Yeah, I have. It's been a while, but
very long while.
It's been an interesting journey the last 6 months for me, a good one. I've actually kind of been on what a good friend of mine had called a sabbatical, and I've never done that ever in my life. So. Beginning of the summer, I had an encounter with Jesus that basically it's like he's going to teach directly for a season. And what I didn't realize then, that also meant it was kind of a sabbatical. And so it's like I've kind of pulled back on a lot of different things, which has been difficult. We haven't met as penguins, which for 8 years straight we've met. Mm-hmm. And it's pulled back from all those things. And so it's what the Father for me did was he showed me very gently all the areas that I was receiving validation in outside of him and in my identity in him. And what I love for the way the Father always works, right? It wasn't even a rebuke, right? It was just, he was loving me into an area that he knew I needed rest in, that I didn't even know myself. And so it's been a really amazing season, and kind of like Derek, what you were saying, having to learning to give up some things that is actually a blessing for us. And so it's been great. I've been able to focus more on family and and being able to reconnect in some areas that I didn't even realize I had disconnected. And so, man, it's been phenomenal, and I'm learning such different things. Derek and I have talked on some of it, but it's like I'm not even sure how to teach some of the things that he's showing me,
Yes.
and I'm not ready to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I need to learn, more and practice more on some of those things. But it's been a really interesting season, but a fantastic season. And to be honest, I don't know when it's going to end. I feel like Father's kind of said it. I will know when it is done, but I don't know that right now. So it's it's kind of it's really interesting. But I'm actually really enjoying it, which
Are
is
you
not something I
journaling?
thought I would have done. So, but
Yeah. Are you journaling it?
no.
Well, when you do go to teacher, I can guarantee you journaling it will help.
Yeah, I guess I kind of am journaling, and I'm doing some videos and things, but it's weird. Like every time I go to like record something or even to post something, it's like it's pull back. Don't even post, so even
Yeah, well,
Facebook, all those things. So
you can keep it private for now, but
yeah, yeah, and I think that's a great suggestion that I need to do, because it's been really
Hey,
quite amazing.
listen, I'm in the same boat, man. God's doing something right now. I think we all are, and in different
Yeah.
degrees. I had an encounter a month ago that I'm crying, begging God, teach me how to articulate this, because if not, I'm going to sound like a crazy person.
Oh
Like
gosh,
if I go live and just start talking about this, like I need you to. I got the download, the revelation is blowing my mind. But if I start, and I talk to my wife, and I know I sounded like a crazy person, but she started getting it. But I'm like, how do I sound? Because this is all making sense and clicking now. And it was an encounter that I feel like we're all in a similar place of this new. I don't say new. It's new to us, but it's very old, right? It's a revealing or like an unveiling of revelation that we haven't been privy to until now.
Yeah, no, I man, that resonates.
Man.
Sure.
yeah, we have an obligation to steward what we receive. And so sometimes I think that if he tells us something that's like, oh my gosh, of course, and we just run and tell it, that's not really stewarding it, because we haven't implemented, we haven't brooded over it, we haven't held it in our hearts. So maybe he's telling you things that are so kind of off the wall and out there that you have to marinate in it for a while, so that you can process it and have it manifest in your own life before you just go out to the world. Maybe.
Definitely.
Just throwing it out there.
No, that's, I mean, that is part of it, and how I feel with a lot of it, because it's like, wow, some of this, I'm like, I don't even know what to think of it, right? But
that's our Father.
I want to hear from Daniel, and then let's get into these revelations, because it sounds like it might be pretty juicy. We might not want to share the details, but but Daniel, let's catch up with you first, because this is your first time on the show.
It is.
Yeah,
And I'm honored to be here. Thank you. The truth is Martin and Derek and Michael, I'm in the same place. It's been a lot of revelation over the last several months that has been messing with me big time. And I know that for right now, the Father has been having me to hold back. So right now we're in a little bit of a break time. We've got our schools starting up next year for the School of the Living Letters, but other than that, this time has been a absolute quiet time, and it's been beautifully awesome to have that time to dig in, because the things that he's been showing me are so simple, and they're like, it's like, duh, but when you go to try to articulate it, it's like, how do you describe it? So I've been like you, Derek, in the sense where I've been asking the Father to show me how to put it in an analogy, or to create a metaphor, or something that I could create a picture with, either by putting up taking some sort of whatever, being able to grab a glass or something and show it. Because one of the things that he showed me was just that. He showed me to take a glass and a pitcher and to pour the water into the pitcher, showing one aspect of it, or pour the water from the pitcher into the cup, showing one aspect of it. But then he had me place another cup inside of the pitcher of water itself, so that the cup was completely submerged inside of the pitcher. And it gave two different pictures about being both filled and filling at the same time. And so that's helped me out a lot in being able to set a basis for it. But man, it's been hard. It's simple, but yet hard at the same time. And because it in some ways it goes against the way that we have seen it in the past, the way we've always seen it. But the Father's taking us into a new dimension, a new level. And I think that's, all of us can agree with that. There's a new place that he's taken each and every. All we got to do is look outside the world and see that the suns are rising up and we're moving into a new place. And so it's that beautiful place where he builds up that place in us of us trusting him and having the confidence in knowing that each step that we take is going to be in a place where he's going to build that trust even more to the full assurance of the confidence of faith in knowing that we can get done the things that he's put in our hearts to get done. And that includes not only in just ministry, that's business, Bralynn, right? That's business. That's that place where where we step out on business and we go to look to do something and we're a little bit unsure about it. But the Father's building that trust in us to say, I have full confidence in you, Father, that I can reach that goal that you've set before me.
I love that. And I definitely want to applaud you on that. But Catherine, hello. We're just kind of going around the horn. So you jumped in right at the perfect moment, because you're the last one that needs to just catch up. And what we've been talking about is, Martin, Derek, and Daniel, and Michael too, I guess, have been in a season where God is revealing, changing things, and I'm not sure how to articulate things, and just depth. And I think I'm going to actually name this. What do you guys think? Drum roll. Revelations of Deep Trust.
Ooh, that's good.
I like it.
I like it.
Anyway, Catherine, so what's new with you?
Wow. Well, gosh, with that, I think it's been flowing the same thing in my life. One of the things we've done, I launched the book Living Loved earlier this spring and got such a response from people because it's a different way of relating to God. So we're saying, hey, we're trying to relate to God, not as Father, which is the revelation of Jesus. God is my Father, which is the revelation of the second covenant, the cross and all that. But we're trying to step into this next age and relate to God in an even more intimate way. And what's more intimate than Father? And that is spouse, for example, which spouse is the most intimate kind of relationship really on earth that we can have with someone. And God wants that most intimate type of connection with us. And we see that in the Bible and all that. So can we now as a community step into it? So we've started a Living Loved community worldwide call every week. And it's amazing how this message of like intimacy and like that you said, the deep trust and vulnerability and opening up the deepest places inside your heart to God and God opening up the deepest places inside God's heart to us and having an exchange there from that place of intimacy. So it's been exciting. It's been maybe 6 months that we've had this worldwide community weekly call, and it's just been incredible how it's gone deeper into my heart personally, but into all of our hearts. And I tell people we might be, as far as I know, it's the first community like that have purposely been trying corporately to relate to God in that kind of an intimate way. So it's an exciting place to be, but absolutely deeper trust and deeper places of vulnerability.
Very, very cool. Michael, were you going to jump in there and say something before I introduce Catherine? Sorry, I cut you off.
I love all you guys. I was just thinking about how beautiful it is that we're being brought together. It's more than I can even process, the amount of stuff that's happening, and the language. It's like you can just start speaking in tongues to do it. there's no words anymore. But I met a friend, a mutual friend of ours, Kara Rial, at a conference hosting Nancy Cohen. And I didn't even know they were there. I was going to another conference, but I ended up going to their conference too, because they were right next to the other one. And it was like, God's bringing together too many people. And then there I was with another friend, and we were just like, no words. Just, this is so amazing. Like what God is doing, bringing everybody together. So go ahead. I don't want to interrupt Catherine.
Oh, I was done. Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. So does anyone want to talk about some revelations, and maybe not the newest things that you haven't processed yet, but maybe some of the things that you've been released to share?
I'll say this. What's been deep for me with all of it is in going, kind of piggybacking off of Daniel. I need an analogy. I need a way to explain this to people, because my heart is after the mysteries. I love how the heavens work and how the stars twinkle and sing their song. And I want to know that song, and I want to know the power of these letters. And this deep, not everybody's going to get that, but that's our heart. And we found a company of people who want that, and that's good. But the lay people, the people on the outside, how do we not sound like a madman of, hey, I just had an encounter with this letter. I got to find a way to break it down in an analogy. And so for me, the analogy was shown in the scriptures, in the life of Jesus, and so all of these encounters that we're having, like going back and reading the scriptures, and there's a new level that is unlocked. It's a level of revelation that only the Lord can open up that door, because he is the revelation of light. As we bring light into our lives and to our mind and understanding, we're able to see the gospel in a new light. We're able to see another depth to it. And it not that it means something else, but there's a level of revelation that was hidden that we have to shroud in the story and the person of Jesus and his parables and his interactions with people. And there's depths to it, right? On the outskirts, it's just a moral obligation. Be a good person. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Don't steal. And so that's the shroud that the greater mysteries are hidden in, and you got to get past that. So finding ways to articulate these deep ancient truths through the story of initiation of Jesus, right? Of being a good person, of forgiving your enemies, all of that stuff, because you're not privy to deal with the hidden mysteries of the stars if you have not brought light into your heart. You have to be submitted to the process. If any man comes to this revelation and this deep stuff that God is showing all of us, and I believe he's the one who has veiled it to us, but we do know that people have tried to come in through other means, and it is only if it be revealed through the Father. And so, we got to make sure that we're handling the truth and righteousness and showing people the right way to do this, clean hands and a pure heart. And there is no limit. There is no limit to this. He wants to show his children his mysteries and he's looking for people he can trust. And it's like, how did you get here? How did you get to this level? I climbed in through the window. Oh, he's not supposed to be here. He's not supposed to be here, but you guys are here because I let you in through the front door. And there's a lot of people trying to get into my secrets, into my mysteries. They're coming in. They're a liar and a thief. And we know those people. Maybe we have been those people in certain aspects and areas of trying to see things that we weren't ready for. I definitely did it when I first got started in the demonic realm of going into layers of the spirit world that I had no access to go. I was not supposed to be there. I bit off some things that I couldn't handle, and it wrecked me. I almost died. That's the mysteries we're talking about, how these realms work, how these realms operate, but they are shrouded in the mystery of initiation, which is the gospel of Christ. Let any man come, and the Father will reveal it. It's so awesome how he's got it to break these mysteries down to us, but in the simplistic form of a story of a humble servant that came clothed as God, and so it just gives it a whole nother light for me. And my mind is just, I spend a week crying, him coming in my room and just teaching me and synapses connecting. And I'm just like, why, God? I'm not worthy. And I'll tell you, the one thing he told me is like, that's why you're worthy. It's because you carry it in humility. You got here because I gave it to you. And I really think that we got to stay in that place.
Yes, you're
Amen.
absolutely right. Well, Christopher just joined us. Awesome. Hello, Christopher. Welcome to Spirit Centered Business and, all of us Next Ager peeps. So,
Shalom.
yeah,
Shalom.
before we continue the discussion on the revelation of deep trust, let's just go ahead. Christopher, why don't you just introduce yourself and what has been going on lately? And like I said, we're kind of circling around the wagons around the revelation of deep trust and that kind of stuff. So anything been going on with you in that area?
Yeah, just the deep trust, seeing the shift coming up and that's coming up in soon, and it's a shift in our consciousness has to shift to align to that consciousness. Like I'm telling my students on the Living Letters class, as we're on the letter Kuf, the Da'at Elohim, the earth shall be filled with the consciousness of Elohim as the waters cover the sea, the consciousness of the knowledge of the glory of God. So as we shift consciousness, like the letter Kuf, the old letter Kuf, to take that into perspective, the Hebrew old alphabet is like a tower, left side, right side of the brain, and a spinal cord, or like a tree of life. It's made up of a Zion and a Resh. The Resh goes above the line, the Zion goes below the line. So, and I call those the two witnesses, and those are the two witnesses of faith. So what it does is it takes you are male and female, it unites the male and female into one, the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain, to assimilate the consciousness of God, to begin to be able to birth it in the earth, to where your shadow becomes not only becomes a womb, not only a place of transmuting. So just like when you're dealing with seraphim and everything else, and this has to do with trust, and I'll get to that. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but just like the seraphim with the flying seraphs and Moshe, they bit the people, they died. He takes a pole, that's the kuf, so that's the kuf, the old Hebrew, the pole. He sets it up, they look at it and they see it, but the seraphs, they're still biting them. The only difference is they don't die. Why? Because the consciousness shifts.
It's good.
So it's Torah. So that's the trust. So we look at the male side. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Why is it that the male side? Because hope that is seen, it's unseen, does not hope. The male is always hidden. And the evidence of things not seen, that's the Malkut, the kingdom, the manifestation. It's the female side. You unite that, and if that happens as you trust that you're being transmuted by his knowledge. When you trust the Holy Spirit, you trust him, you trust what you're receiving. And then when you begin to trust that and you begin to see that, even things when those snakes are biting you and it doesn't feel good, it works together for your good. I know Christianese, they like to quote that all things work together for our good. That only happens when your consciousness is aligned to when you see it not as evil, but as, hey, it's working together for my good.
It's part of
when
the
you can see it like that, then that shadow becomes a womb. You bring it into your womb, you transmute it, release it as life. So that's what we've been teaching my students on the Da'at Elohim, because it's all about the Da'at. As I've been seeing the Da'at Elohim and the spinning over the earth, because the Lord is wanting to shift us into a new consciousness. He doesn't take away the serpents. He doesn't take away the backs or whatever your people are dealing with or shifting. He changes the way you see it, because I can't transmute it until my consciousness aligns with his, and that has to do with trust. That has to do with trust in the process. Trust that no matter what I'm seeing, I see it as good, because it's going to work together for my good, because I see in it from the shadow of the tree of life. And as I tell them, you're a Sadiq, you're a righteous one in Christ. When I add the letter Kuf to Sadiq, I get Ketz. Ketz means in Hebrew the end of time. So when I add that kuf, when my consciousness shifts, in that time, I transmute it and shift it into eternity from the eternal perspective, so that I can transmute everything according to the knowledge of the glory of God. And that is an awesome trust. And I'm sorry to ramble so much.
No, that's okay. I just want to come back around and build a little bit of train tracks under that train, because that was going everywhere, and I just need to, for my audience, it's a different audience a little bit than Kingdom Talk. So what you said, though, was really good about the shadow becomes the womb, because as we are unrolling the scroll of the destiny of our business, and we're brooding over it and releasing our shadow over it, and singing over it, and sitting on our throne on the top of our mountain over this, so that our business can flow into the earth and flow down and become real. You're absolutely right that we have to have that shift of consciousness that the Lord is in it. If he gave you the idea, he gave you the mantle, make sure you have the mantle. Don't run around trying somebody else's mantle, get your own mantle. Make sure you have the mandate, and then as you're bringing that business into fruition, and it's for the purpose of building the kingdom, that is going to your conscious has to be able to raise to the point of out of I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is a good idea. I don't know, where am I going to get the money for this? I don't know how to do this. All of those things that are the low consciousness, right? We have to rise above that, like you said, and come into the consciousness of the Elohim, or, whichever.
Christ consciousness.
Whichever of the facets of the Lord. I mean, wisdom, that's always a good consciousness to come into, prudence for witty inventions. So whatever you need in the moment, I love that. You have to come up to that consciousness in order to walk it out in your business. And that may ground a little bit of what Christopher said. I don't think it grounds a lot of it. He's got so much there. Anybody else? Help me out here.
I think your whole, what you just spoke through, Christopher, is amazing for me, because it put a lot of Hebrew context to a lot of what I've been encountering that I still don't have words for. But I think what's interesting for me is that, and we've talked about relationship, we've talked about the internal work, and I think that's one of the revelations I feel like I've had personally, is that when we have done Penguins, it was a lot of prophetic work. It was a lot of just spending time in the presence of God. And man, I remember when I first started, that was to fix everything. If I could just spend more time in his presence, right, that would fix everything. And what he's been showing me was that was actually a lower consciousness, if you will, because that's actually separation. And it's exactly what you were talking about, Daniel, earlier on, having the cup submerged in the water, is that yes, it's wonderful to go worship and spend time and those things, but what I was really looking for was the quick fix. I was looking for that prophetic fix. I was looking for that, if I could just, I would be fixed. And really what the Father's been showing me is that let's go deeper into relationship together. And that's kind of what you were saying, Catherine, that husband-wife intimacy. And let's actually work through this stuff, because you're not broken, but you've had wounds, right? And so let's walk through this together. There is no separation. And it's in that journey, for me at least, it's like he is elevating consciousness to understand some of these things better. But it was really interesting, because it was like it's no longer looking for the prophetic word, the prophetic utterances, those things. They happen. That's just normal stuff as part of intimacy, but that's no longer the goal for me. The goal is the deeper intimacy, the deeper relationship. And that's been a big shift for me over the last 6 months or so. And I didn't even know it until probably a couple of months ago. It's like all of a sudden Father just starts showing me what he's been doing this whole time, but it's all intimacy and changing the consciousness, and even not even seeing the warfare anymore from the standpoint of it's there, but my consciousness is is moving to a different space. I would say it's not there completely, but I'm learning how to engage that better. I would say even in the mundane things of normal life, it's been a huge difference for me. So I think it's interesting how it seems like all of this is just working together, just in concert, like it always seems to do. So
That's fascinating that you said that. I was just talking to a client today who was saying, one of my biggest desires is I want to see God face to face, right? I just want to see him face to face. And my first thought, I mean, that's a great desire. I've had that desire. It has sparked growth. But my first reaction was not the reaction I would have had 5 or 10 years ago to be like, yeah, that's the best thing ever, man. I was like, you know what? That kind of reminds me of, is it John 14 where Thomas says, just show us the Father and we'll be content. And Jesus is like, man, if you see me, you've seen the Father. And I think sometimes we have these goals like, gosh, if my business could just be like this, right? Like, let me write it all out. If I could just have this business goals met, or these financial goals met, or these relationship goals met, or these spiritual goals met. Like, if I could just have that, I would be content. And we go after that thinking it's so spiritual or so wise. And it can, because any desire can be a gateway, a portal into amazing breakthrough. And so, yes, it can be. And if that's the gateway someone needs to use, then I'll go with them there and we'll go through that gateway. But it doesn't have to be, right? Because like, you know what? I can kind of hear Jesus saying to you, if you've seen yourself, you've seen me, because don't we bear the image of God? Don't we have God's Spirit? Don't we have the image of Christ? So I think that the fact that we feel like there's something that we yearn for, that we don't have, that feeling of that is not a reality. That's the lie. Like we have it, the oneness, the intimacy, like you were talking about, that is the reality. But we can have a perception of, I don't have that. And so we can use different things to get there. But ultimately, it's just a realization of what we already possess. Like there is nothing that you lack. You don't lack anything. It's just a perceived lack.
So good. That's really good, Catherine. Thank you.
My good friend Christopher Carter has this kind of goes back to a conversation that him and I had not too terribly long ago, and we were talking about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And he said one of the other names for that could really be the tree of comparison. Mm-hmm. And to me, that really struck home because it really fits in when you look at it from the business perspective as well as a personal perspective, because we look at other people and then compare ourselves based on the way that they are, and not necessarily the way that the Father is taking us through something. And through that, the Father's begun to add an additional revelation of that when it came to the garden, especially where the serpent came to Eve and began to talk her into biting of the tree. We've always seen the actual eating of that fruit being that part that was the sin that caused everything that we deal with from this point forward, or from that point forward. But the truth is that if we go back and look at it from a more detailed perspective or more personal perspective, what the serpent was doing was attacking her on the level of trust. Do you really trust that the Lord said exactly what he said? Because you're going to eat of that tree and you're not going to die today, because that was kind of the pictures that she had. But the serpent knew that she wouldn't die that day, that it would be later on that she would die. But the serpent had a very narrow or very short-term perspective when the Father was speaking from the eternal or the long-term perspective. And so the real sin there, or the real issue, came because she lacked the trust. She suddenly questioned the trust of what the Father was saying to her. And it was from that everything that we deal with from that point has been that lack of trust in what we hear the Father say. Just like, I want to see the Father. Do you trust that you can see the Father? When you look at yourself, do you trust that when you see yourself and you see the way that you respond, do you see the Father? And see, those are really personal, intimate questions. that really can only be exchanged between a husband and a wife. Because sometimes if we try to take those questions to people who don't know us or love us intimately, now those same things are used against us, because we're if you will, laying ourselves bare before them. And when the truth is that when we've got a husband and a wife and that close, intimate relationship, there's the place where there's absolute trust of opening up and being able to communicate something and know that I'm not going to be judged or chastened for it or something like that. And so I've had a friend of mine that was going through some really strong issue, and Yahweh gave me this ability to or this analogy, if you will, of how to explain some of what I've been talking about, especially when it comes to trust and confidence. And he had me standing on a cliff, and across this cliff was this long bridge, and it was a narrow wooden bridge where it just had wooden steps or wooden slats that went across this deep ravine, so deep you couldn't even see the bottom. And you could see the other side, but yet there was a great distance across. And from this bridge was set up like a V. So it had two rope handrails to either side. Y'all get the picture? Two rope handrails. And you're precariously walking across this bridge. Or actually in this picture, the Father was on the other side of the bridge and he was saying, come to me, come up here, come to where I am. And of course, I can look and stand. I've been calling this the Trinity of Faith. I've seen a kind of a cool connection here, what I call the Trinity of Faith. And that's faith, trust, and confidence is the Trinity. And I can stand on that edge and have faith that that bridge can handle me. But until I make that first step, now I can begin to trust, because once I've made the first step, then it's been able to hold me, I can trust a little bit more, and I can make the next step, the next step, and the next step. And if you stop to think about it, as we walk through these processes and as we go from one step to the next, there is a confidence that begins to build. Father, you've taken me this far. I know that you can keep taking me even further. And because of the situation with this friend of mine, I said, but now imagine you're right in the middle of this deep ravine. You can't see the bottom. And suddenly this wind gust comes along, so strong that you're afraid that you're going to be knocked off of this bridge and just absolutely blown away. Do you trust that even if you are knocked off of that bridge, that the Father will teach you how to fly and land right back on that bridge and continue the journey? Can you, even if something comes around that's that strong, can you keep going? Because the moment that you reach the other side and you're standing right there before the Father, the confidence, the next time he tells you go back over that bridge, you can go twice as fast now, because you've got the full confidence that the Father has taken you over there and he's brought you there to that one point. Now let's go again. And boom, 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 boom. There's a snowball effect in that place of being able to trust him and be confident, regardless of what's going on around us, regardless of the wind and the waves. I mean, come on, let's talk about the Bible story like Derek brought up earlier. Where he didn't bring up that particular story, but he was talking about bringing in the analogy from Scripture. What about when Yeshua was in the front of the boat and the disciples were on the lake, and suddenly the storm came up and Yeshua was asleep in the front of the boat, right? And he came to them and they finally came and said, "Hey, Jesus, don't you know that there's a storm going on here?" And he looks at him and says, "Oh, ye of little faith. I mean, how long have I been with you? I've taught you this. Don't you have the confidence in me that when you see me, you see the Father? Don't you have the confidence in knowing that I've already given you this place of faith and trust and confidence in my word?" Mm-hmm. And then what did he do? He turned around and spoke and said, "Peace, be still." And they saw that. And of course, it challenged them as a result, because they realized, wait, I can do this. I can make it through. So anyway, it was great. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Awesome. Well, I don't know if any of you have spoken to the wind and calmed it like that, but why aren't we there yet?
It's a good question. That's really a good question. There's part of me that says, and I hope, Michael, I apologize, didn't mean to jump in on top of you there, but it's a question that I've been asking as well. And there's a part of me that says that there's times when I do that on a personal and intimate level between me and him. And it's building that confidence in me. So when the time comes when he says, I want you to speak this, then I will be confident in being able to do so. So there's a part of me saying that we're getting to that place where we're really learning that place of trust and confidence now, so that when the time comes, we are able to do that.
Michael, I want
Amen.
you to
I wanted to
share.
add something.
Yeah.
That's something kind of funny, because our mutual friends, Nancy Cohen, Lick, Riel, Kara Riel, were at this Mystic conference that was next door to an End Time conference. So, Lisa Haven, Derek Gilbert, all the, Dave Hodges, like, get ready for FEMA camps, bro. We're going to go, we're going to die. And, these intense preachers. And I knew some of them were on the network, so I went to watch them, brought a friend. But it was so heavy, and I agree that we're facing unprecedented danger. I mean, the dollar is down 25% this year. Just this last year, the IMF is talking about, global economic collapse. Like, you see all that data, and all the Christians are focused on, like, oh no, QAnon didn't save us. Who's going to save us now? And they're just ready for the next big hoax. Whereas I'm looking at it like next door, Nancy Cohen is saying, I've been seeing the news, and of course I know all these things are happening, but I'm not going to lose my faith in the Lord. And let's talk about transcendence for 5 hours. It's like, here we are walking between two camps. And it's like, if only these two groups knew about each other, to where we're like, okay, yes, there is a valid challenge ahead of us. The storm is 100% real. 100% dangerous. We had people in this chat that weren't able to make it because they're losing their loved ones this morning. I've lost dozens of people in this last few months that I know. I know a lot of people. But if we can utilize these spiritual weapons of ascending, spending time in the love of God and the absolute bliss, I think that's the spirit where we're going to see limbs regrown, prison doors opening, teleportation. I think even time travel is going to be a thing in these coming years, because it's going to be bad on the outside. But this group, you guys hold the keys to walking in that. And that's why I'm here. It's like, I want to take from this and then throw it at Lisa Haven's face. You know what I mean? Sorry, I don't mean to sound unloving.
Well, I've been doing some studies of, I don't know, the stars and mountain and those kinds of things. And I actually had an encounter with a being that has a very, very high position and has something to do with my star. I haven't worked everything out, but the night after I met her during the day, I had this incredible dream, and I haven't unpacked the dream enough. And like I said earlier, I don't want to just like spew something out that I haven't worked out myself. But the gist of it was that we can get so far into the understanding, and what was represented in the dream was I was in the space, but everything around me was in suspended animation. So I couldn't interact with it. And so we can get so far into the revelation at that point of stopping, there needs to be an exponentially different, understanding a whole level, different dimension, like either a spatial dimension, a time dimension, something. There's like this gigantic shift that would need to happen for you to go 1 inch further. And I think the gist of the dream that I got, and kind of after I was pondering it and holding it in my heart, we're not prepared yet. We are not mature enough as sons to be able to handle that next little piece that will take us that 1 inch further into understanding. And if you think about, well, if your thoughts could just be things, how many times would you have killed your spouse or your kids already? Like we have got to get ourselves sorted to get that maturity level to be able to handle the understanding and the revelation.
That's so good. I totally agree with that. That flows exactly with something I've learned over the last year or two, where I've been seeing is I think we've approached like, how do I teleport? How do I control time? How do I, fill in the blank? And at least I was coming into, I think a lot of people coming into it as, well, what are the principles, right? Let me figure it out. And I think it's kind of a masculine approach, like show me the mechanic's guide to the motorcycle, right? And I'll take it apart and then I'll put it back together, right? How does time work? And I'm going to understand all the principles and that kind of thing. And I tried doing that, and I was getting mentored by these mentors with time and meeting with angels and with time and stuff like that, and making so little progress. I got frustrated. And then God finally said, hey, why don't you take a different approach? Why don't you come at it through intimacy? And like you said, it's a different frequency and it's a different dimension. And so then I've started having encounters where it was almost feeling like you were in a different dimension, something like love, like bliss, like very intense kind of. That feeling is also a way to do all of those things, right? So you don't have to sit there and understand the manual on time and all of the, mathematical principles behind it. And, and what did this, you can come into it relationally. You can come into it through intimacy, through a frequency of love and that kind of thing, and bliss, and just relate to it, and I still, haven't figured out how to do that, or I'm not jumping through time yet. But I think that that's a different dimensional jump or dimensional place to be. And it's probably more of a feminine approach. So that tends to flow better with me. I'd rather relate. I'd rather have a relationship with time and this stuff than understand the user's guide to it. But I think that will be a path that opens up one through intimacy and bliss to doing all the fun stuff.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's going to be a necessary thing. Like Michael said, it's not like we're oblivious to the custard hitting the fan out there. It's just that we choose to focus on solutions rather than problems, Well,
I think that's what all this time together with some of the revelation I got, what Catherine just brought, what you just said, Bralynn, just looking at how Jesus operated in these miracles, because I'm looking at the science as well. And I was taken to Mark chapter 8, and the Lord just kind of opened it up for me, and he did a miracle. And so he feeds the 5,000 with, was it 5 loaves and 2 fish? And he saw that they were hungry. They had been following him, I think, for 3 days, and they were hungry. And he was going to send them away, but he knew if he sent them away fasting, because they haven't been eating anything, if he sent them away fasting, then they most likely wasn't going to make it home, and they were going to faint. So I got to give these guys something to eat. And we know that he wasn't talking about bread in the spirit world, right? He's not talking about eating bread. He's talking about he is the bread of life. But he looked at them, but he said he looks at them with compassion. So that was the first thing. He had a compassion for those people that were following him, and they were hungry. We look at a world that's starving for spirituality, true spirituality. We'll look at a world that is, the Bible says that there'll be a famine in the land, but the famine will be of the word of God, the Spirit of God. That's the Holy Spirit. So there's a famine, the people are hungry, and Jesus has compassion. I got what you guys are looking for. Listen, we got what they're looking for, every single one of us. We have the hope that lies for the entire world within us. That smallest spark that any Christian has is greater than any darkness that people are going through right now. And that's what speaks to the winds and waves and to the seas. But it says he had compassion. And then I go back and I start doing these other studies and seeing, when he looked at people, it was always that compassion. And that was this deep, gut-wrenching feeling like, oh man, I can't. I feel for you in the matrix and in the very my being of who I am. I feel for you because I can help you. So he had compassion for the people, but then he takes a little bit, which was 5 loaves, 2 fish, and there's a lot of people to feed. He takes something very small and he's like, I got to feed them. And it says that he blessed it and then he gave thanks. So that was 2 keys before he stepped into multiplication to be able to perform a miracle, to say that little is much when God's in it. He said that he was thankful and he blessed it. And I'm breaking down those words. What does that mean to be thankful? Like in a place of gratitude, to come into his presence with thanksgiving and gladness and thank you for, I know it's only 2 fish. It's only 2 fish and 5 loaves, but hey, thank you for this. I'm thankful. I'm in the moment. I'm present with it. Thank you so much. And so in that, he was able to step into multiplication and feed everyone because he approached it with that thanksgiving. He blessed it and he had that gratitude. We got to take all 3 of those keys, I think. The compassion, we got to be moved with compassion, genuine empathy for people that we can help. And then we got to stay in this place of thanksgiving, little as much. And we can easily, we do breath work. We take a breath. Father, thank you for the breath. Thank you for the spirit. Thank you for our heartbeat. And then you start moving out. Thank you for that I'm the head and not the tail. Thank you that my greatest days are in front of me. I'm thankful for my future, my present. Thank you for my past. Why? Because I've made peace with it. Thank you for my enemies. Why? Because I've made peace with them. My family I was at war with. Thank you. I made peace with them. I'm at peace with all men because they're an expression of me and an emanation of God. So moving into this place of thanksgiving, to bring it with us. And we all know that, right? But when the Lord showed it to me like that in the scripture, it was like fresh manna. It was that fresh bread and that revelation. So to tap into that stuff with gratitude, thanksgiving, and blessing those things for sure.
That's so good. Awesome, Derek.
And that is an altering of consciousness.
For sure.
You're not seeing it as how it, and that's why a lot of us in the ecclesia, we're not doing these things, because we always see everything, technologies, we want to enter into these things, but we always see it how it pertains to us. And it becomes a sucking black hole, or it's always about us in a sense. And it can become a place of unbelief. But when I enter into the consciousness of the darkness of Yahweh, myself and how I see myself goes out the window, then I be able to connect, then I be able to see others and how everything that I do, whether it's time travel, how it affects everything else, because no man lives to himself. Because that's the Philippians, the mystical part of the Philippians 2 mindset. They're being a consolation in Christ, and comforts the love, and he bowls and he fellowship of the Spirit, and he bowls and mercies. Fulfill you my joy, that you be like-minded one to another, being of one accord, having the same love, the same mind. Let not every man look on his own things. Let every man look on things of others. Let this mind be in you, the mind, consciousness, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, thou did not robbery make himself equal with God. Sorry, I'm butchering Philippians, but anyway, quoting that. But that's what I begin to teach my students. When you get into the consciousness of Yahweh, you've got sickness or whatever you've got things, you see the world. I can't help the world until I can see them, until I see how every word affects them, how every movement. Why do I want to go back in time? What's the purpose of it? What's it going to shift and what's it going to change? I know I got to the Lord. I remember one time I was in a church and I was wanting to give a word. I felt like I had a word of the Lord and I was wanting to give it. And the Lord said, you really want to give that word? Can you see how that word affects time, space, everyone in there, their generations, time, space? Can you see how that word will go forth and shake? In fact, can you see that before you give that word? And I said, no, I can't. He said, then sit down. Wow. And I had to learn to begin before I say or open my mouth or see anything or travel in the spirit or anything like that, or even when I'm interacting with any being in heaven or star or anything like that, I can't see me. Because if I see me, then I'm just wanting to suck it into me, and it becomes all about me. But when I begin to see others, I can see the earth, I can see space. Then I can become as he is, so am I in this world, a living bread for others to feed on, for others to come in my shadow, my womb, and be transformed. I think that's why a lot of the ecclesia doesn't walk in, because they still see it through a context of myself. I want to do this. I want to talk. And in a sense, it kind of, it becomes a black hole in a sense. And it becomes, then when they're not doing it, then they enter into unbelief, which is a place of departing, because unbelief, it was always about them anyway. But when you can see others, when you can truly see and feel the hesed for others.
It's good.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah, that's good. Michael, were you going to say something?
Well, briefly, I wanted to go back to what Christopher was talking about too, because, you know, today, and living near Asheville, which is like the San Francisco of the East Coast, you see people like cross-dressing, not even very well. It's like, you're obviously a dude, like you could have shaved. You at least look like a pretty, like what's the statement, you know? But like, that's the thing. Like, if you have that teaching where, like what Christopher's portion, I want to go back and listen to some more of what he's got, because that's exactly what that whole community needs to hear. It's not about your body. Like, you don't need to get in touch with your feminine side by getting surgery. You go and you find out what the Spirit has for you. You're talking about having a womb, Daniel. So there you go, you know? And that's the thing. It's like, we're trying to figure it all out. And I'm cleaning my chainsaw as I'm listening to you guys. I'm like, mother effing bad, cool nuts stuff, you know? And then what Catherine said, it's like, well, you know, there's the feminine listening to God and submitting and intimacy. And, you know, Hell's Angels writers don't really like that kind of talk, but that's where spiritual next agerness and spirit-centered business, I think, comes in, is that we can. And I'm looking at this. I used to be in the Children of God, famous cult. You know, I was trained in things that I don't think are, like, the world is not ready for what they tried to do. And then the leadership left, and, you know, the shepherd leaves and the sheep scatter. And I'm working with a handful of, you could say, survivors from that. And they love the Lord. But it's about winning souls and training disciples. And I look at it like, there's a huge harvest out there. If only they could hear this. We just need to get this into their hands. And one of the best mission fields is, and this is going to sound so stupid, TikTok. That's where everybody is. You have all these ex-New Agers, tarot card readers, witches, and 100,000 million Christians pouring their hearts out. And they're like 10. They look like they just got born. You know, they're like 17-year-olds, 20-year-olds. I think we can get this stuff in their hands, put little clips of our shows, whatever, you know, Derek goes on coast to coast, get it in the hands of these confused and leaderless new army. And I believe that this is going to be one of the examples how we're going to get this message that's so needed out there.
Well, you're absolutely right, Michael. And this is a great place to just take a pause for segment 1. And why don't we come back and just start brainstorming? How are we going to get this in the hands of the people who need to hear it? You know, well, let's come to it with some solutions, or come to it with, I don't know, whatever God gives us. What do you say, guys? This has been so good. Thank you so much for being here for part 1. And Next Agers, don't move. The rest of you guys, we will see you next week. Right? Okay. Until next time, stay spirit-centered. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Spirit-Centered Business with Bralynn Newby. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The next age of doing business by being spirit-centered is coming together in collaboration, working with spiritual principles and knowing our destiny. Join our tribe at spiritcenteredbusiness.com, and we'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace out.